palette swaps have become a staple in fighting games. Not only do they offer distinction when multiple people play the same character, they offer developers an opportunity to include Easter eggs and references that die-hard fans will appreciate. Smash is no stranger to this. Every character gets a handful of costumes to choose from, ranging from different colored clothes to different hair or outfits altogether, and you might be surprised where some of the ideas for these costumes come from. So let's dive into the origins of these costumes, starting with characters from the Mario series. As Nintendo's mascot, Mario obviously appeared in the very first Super Smash Bros. Game for the Nintendo 64. Let's take a look at his different costumes. His yellow costume is very obviously based off of Wario's color scheme of a yellow shirt and hat with purple overalls. The official Smash 64 website lists the brown costume as a reference to Foreman Spike from the game Wrecking Crew 98. The overalls match Foreman Spike's outfit, and the lighter shirt color gives the appearance of a tank top just like Foreman Spike wears. Mario's blue costume is sort of an inverse of his default costume. The blue from the overalls is now the shirt color, and the red from the shirt is now the overalls color. There can also be some similarities found to his Mario Bros. Art, depicting him with a blue hat in one piece and with blue overalls in another. His green costume, used only during teams, is also a reference to Wrecking Crew, this time to the Spanish box art, which shows Mario in orange overalls and a green shirt. There aren't really any drastic changes moving from Smash 64 to Melee. Mario's green costume becomes a bit darker with brown overalls instead of orange, and the previous brown costume becomes more black and gray. But aside from these changes, there aren't really any new color schemes that are added. Aside from the new gritty tone that Super Smash Bros. Brawl brought, there is only one new costume added for Mario, and it's a pretty obvious one. This color scheme references how Mario looks when he grabs a fire flower in the main series Mario titles in pretty much every game ever. Finally, Smash for 3DS and Wii U added 3 new costumes. The first is a new blue costume which replaced the inverted blue costume previously in all the other games. This new pink and blue costume references the original Mario Bros. Art as well as matching one of Wario's costumes. The next costume has Mario don an American flag getup, which is a very easy connection to make to the NES title, NES Open Golf. And the last costume is very obvious. Mario is simply wearing the same color scheme as Waluigi. Next, let's look at Mario's brother, Luigi. An interesting fact regarding Luigi's default colors in Smash 64 is that he's actually wearing purplish overalls. This is a reference to Super Mario World, where his sprite has overalls far more purple than blue. As you can see, Mario's is more blue and Luigi's is more purple. Luigi's white costume references Luigi's appearance when he picks up a fire flower, but it also comes from his look in the NES version of Mario Bros., a white shirt and green overalls. Luigi's blue costume also calls back to the NES version of Mario Bros., this time to its box art, which contains a blue shirt and dark blue overalls. Because the N64 was more powerful, the overalls colors was likely darkened to offer more contrast. Finally, Luigi's red costume, although it's more of a pink costume, aligns mostly with his Wrecking Crew sprite, red overalls with a lighter colored shirt. Again, nothing really changes between Smash 64 and Melee for Luigi's costumes. The overalls on his default costume are adjusted to be firmly blue rather than purple, and the overalls on his white costume are made slightly darker. Other than that, nothing really changes. However, Super Smash Bros. Brawl did introduce 2 new costumes. First is Luigi's orange getup, which references the NES game Pinball's box art, showing a sprite with an orange shirt and blue overalls. Next, just as Mario has a Wario costume, Luigi finally receives his counterpart Waluigi's colors in this 3rd installment of the series. Additionally, Luigi's white costume is cemented as the Fire Luigi palette swap in Brawl rather than being a vague reference in previous titles. Smash for 3DS and Wii U also introduced 2 new costumes, bringing the grand total up to 8. The first new costume is a darker blue palette with 2 possible origins. The first would be a very obscure reference to a Japanese Super Mario movie, which I'm not even gonna attempt to pronounce, I would just totally mess it up. It could also be a reference to the box art of All Night Nippon Super Mario Bros., a Japanese recreation of the original Super Mario Bros. Featuring various Japanese celebrities in sprite form. But a more likely origin is that this is just based off of the Blue Luigi variant found in the multiplayer for Luigi's Mansion Dark Moon. Finally, Luigi gains a yellow costume. This is more difficult to pin down, and the only thing I could seem to find fitting as a reference was the Atari XE version of Mario Bros. Luigi wears green overalls and a yellowish shirt. This is kind of a stretch though, and this is one of the few scenarios where the simple need for an 8th costume may be the only real explanation for this addition. Next, let's look at Princess Peach, who was first invited to the Smash series in Super Smash Bros. Melee. Her first palette swap is very clearly based on her princess counterpart, Princess Daisy. Her blue and green costumes were both based off of NES Open Golf, where green and blue dresses can be found on what is assumed to be Peach and Daisy. These color schemes were again reused as alternate Peach costumes in Mario Golf. Peach's white outfit can be up for debate, but it's most likely that this is meant to be a Nurse Peach costume, despite the fact that Nurse Peach wears pink. This seems to be true based on Melee's event, Time for a Checkup, where you fight Dr. Mario and Peach, who wears the white outfit to match Doc. This costume may also be based on her original look in Super Mario Bros., but we'll revisit that in a second. Moving along to Brawl, Peach received only one new costume, a red dress. This can be tied back to the original Donkey Kong, where Mario tried to save Pauline, who wears a red dress. Finally, in Smash for 3DS and Wii U, 2 new costumes were added. The first is based off of Peach's Fire Flower costume in Super Mario 3D World. This costume was in turn based off of Peach's original design from Super Mario Bros. Note that the white dress and red trim is nearly identical. The second new costume I've had difficulty assigning an origin. The only plausible theory I've found is that it relates to the color scheme of a Power Star, but this seems a bit of a stretch to me as yellow is the majority of the color in a Power Star, while on this costume black is the primary color. Next, let's move on to Rosalina and her squadron of Lumas, who were introduced in Smash for 3DS and Wii U. Rosalina's pink costume could be based on the hungry Lumas found in Super Mario Galaxy. These Lumas were the only pink Lumas in the game and would transform into an entire new world when fed enough star bits. Her yellow costume was based primarily off of the yellow Lumas, however this costume can also be based off the Power Star. This seems far more likely than Peach's costume. Her green dress looks very similar to her default blue dress, but a good guess for this origin is that they were based off of the green Lumas from Mario Galaxy and the green stars from Galaxy 2. Rosalina's red costume is very clearly based off her appearance in Super Mario 3D World when she picks up the Fire Flower. The only difference here is that her hair is not tied back, whereas in Mario 3D World it is. Her purple dress color could be a reference to Lubba from Mario Galaxy 2. The black and yellow color scheme of this costume does match Peach's similar costume, though again I really wasn't able to narrow down any kind of exact origin. It seems that these costumes were just designed to match each other. Finally, Rosalina's white costume could be a reference to her appearance as a child in Super Mario Galaxy, where she wears a white dress. This could also be paired with a reference to Peach's original look from Super Mario Bros. As well. And of course, the different color Lumas that she grabs are actual Lumas that you can see throughout the games. Mario's alternate identity, Dr. Mario, first joined the Smash roster in Melee. Let's look at his costumes, which offer some nods to the real world in addition to gaming references. Dr. Mario's red costume resembles Nurse Peach's outfit from the Dr. Mario games. His jacket is more pink than red, so it could be a good match. Both the blue and green costumes are allusions to real-life hospitals. Medical doctors typically wear blue scrubs, while green scrubs are worn by surgeons. On the Melee website, the black color scheme is referred to as unlicensed Dr. Mario. Perhaps this is a play on words for a shady doctor, because shade tends to darken an area just as Dr. Mario's outfit is dark. The red and blue costumes can also vaguely reference the red and blue viruses from the Dr. Mario series as well. Dr. Mario unfortunately missed the boat for Brawl, but he's back in Smash for 3DS and Wii U with several new costumes. First, there is a defined split from Doc's old red costume from Melee. A bright red coat has been added to his red costume, replacing the light pink one from Melee. Red is also the color of scrubs worn by many nurses. Meanwhile, a separate and more obvious pink alternate has been added to match Nurse Peach's costume. 2 additional costumes have also been added. First is a yellow costume, which can complete the triangle of virus references by matching the yellow virus. Additionally, this can be a reference to Wario's color scheme, offering a Dr. Wario. And of course, if you're gonna have Dr. Wario, you'll need a Dr. Waluigi, which of course Doc's purple getup seems to be based off of. Next, let's move on to the main villain, Bowser, who was introduced in Super Smash Bros. Melee and strangely only had 3 other costumes aside from his default look. His red costume seems to resemble either a Spiny or a red Koopa Troopa. It also vaguely represents Bowser's second player costume from Mario Golf. His blue costume originates from Bowser's original look in Super Mario Bros. In the Japanese box art. Bowser's design was rather inconsistent in the early days, so just as with the Mario Bros., it's a nice homage to that era. Meanwhile, Bowser's black costume seems to be an original for Melee and offers simply a darker palette with more vivid hair and spikes. Super Smash Bros. Brawl added 2 new costumes for Bowser, bringing his total up to 6. The white costume resembles his dry Bowser form from the new Super Mario Bros. Series, and also vaguely resembles Morton Koopa Jr.'s look from Super Mario World. Bowser also has a brown alt in Brawl. It's possible that if this isn't another Smash original, this costume is based off of Boom Boom from Super Mario Bros. 3. Boom Boom's design has since changed in the modern era of Mario games, but on the NES and SNES versions, he was mostly brown, just as this costume is. Finally, let's move on to Smash for 3DS and Wii U. In this game, nearly every color, including returning colors, has had some kind of change. The only relatively unchanged color scheme is his white dry Bowser costume. Briefly, his black color seems to have fused the Brawl brown and black costumes together. The dark and bright contrast remains from the black costume, but the colors are definitely more brown overall this time. The red, green, and blue costumes have also been updated. Red is based on a combination of Roy Koopa design elements mixed with an alternate costume for Bowser from Mario Golf. The green costume now pulls elements from Bowser's cartoon design mixed with the green alternate costume from Mario Golf, as well as his design from Super Mario World. His blue costume again also vaguely looks like an alternate costume from Mario Golf. Additionally, this costume looks similar to Dark Bowser from Mario & Luigi Bowser's Inside Story. The blue shell on his back can also further reference a blue spiny shell from Mario Kart. As for new costumes, Bowser has 2. His orange color bears a resemblance to Bowser's design in Super Mario Bros. The Lost Levels, Super Mario Bros. 3, and Super Mario World. However, to better distinguish between default Bowser and this costume, the hair color has been made pink instead. Bowser's yellow costume really doesn't have any known origin to me. I wasn't able to find anything that could relate to this costume, so until then I'm gonna assume that this was made specifically as a Smash original. And last but not least, we have Bowser Jr., introduced in Smash for 3DS and Wii U. His alternate costumes are incredibly obvious, but for the sake of completion, they're all based on the 7 Koopalings from Super Mario Bros. 3, Super Mario World, and the new Super Mario Bros. Series, of course looking like they're more modern incarnations. Thanks for watching the first part of my Costume Origins miniseries. I'll be releasing new videos for this every couple of weeks, so make sure you're subscribed to watch the next one right away. If you enjoyed, make sure to leave a like, and I'll see you guys next time. Have a great day.